Welcome again to Clipper Boating. Today I'd like to just go over something that I did a couple of weeks ago. Added an extension to the cabin here at the very back. That was mainly to bring the cabin walls in line with the top of the roof. I didn't think about this when I first made the roof, so the roof was a little bit short. So anyway, what this video will be about is how that extension was added. The extension is just a piece of the same material that the roof is made out of. It's a 1/4 inch thick piece of marine grade plywood. So in this next piece of the video, you'll see how I actually cut the strip out that I used for this extension, and it's approximately 1.5 inches plus a little extra for the glue joint. Okay, what I'm going to do here, you can't see all of this, but basically I'm adding an extension on the back of the cabin roof here, right here. It's going to be approximately 1.5 inches, and the reason I'm doing that is because there's going to be a wall, a bulkhead, coming down here, and it's going to come down about this point, which is about 1.5 inches. Now, why didn't I make the roof that long in the first place? Well, it's because I didn't think of it at the time. So what I'm planning on doing is cutting a small slot in here, just very narrow, probably 1/4 inch, maybe a little less, probably 1/4 inch. And this is going to rest into that. And I've made this just a little bit wider than 1.5 inches, so that way I can put it on here. It'll rest on this edge. It'll be glued along here. It's also going to be cut into here so that it's glued into this as well. So that way it's supported on both ends, and once it's glued in place, it'll basically follow the roof line, and then later I'll be filling in the seam all along this edge with epoxy, and the whole roof is going to be a fiberglass anyway, so this will just extend this, and this will give me the first part of this aft bulkhead. And then just mark it about right there, and then I'll just trim that off, and this will be the first part. And this is the part after it's been trimmed. You can see that it pretty much will fit where I want. It's actually going to go out here like this. And like I said, it's going to overlap this, but it'll be flush with this edge of this roof line here. What you're going to see next in the video is the part where I had already cut the channel into this piece here where this lays into, and then what I had not finished was at the very ends and into the wood, which I couldn't reach with the router. The rest of this was cut with a trim router, or I should say a rabbiting bit router that cut a small little rabbit edge on the edge of this piece. But I couldn't get in here because the router wouldn't reach. So these all had to be done by hand, and that's what you'll see in the next video. Today we're going to be adding this extension here to the roof line right here. We're going to be gluing it in all the way across. You can't really see the other side, but it goes completely across just like that. This is going to be glued on with epoxy. I've already milled this channel here, taped everything off, everything's prepared. So let's go ahead and get started while this epoxy is still usable. The first step is to just kind of primer the area with regular thin epoxy, or not thin, just regular epoxy. It's not thickened. It's just out of the bottle that it comes out of it. It's a 2-part epoxy. It's mixed 5-to-1, the hardener being the 1 and the resin being the 5. Okay, now we'll put some on here. And the reason for the primering, what you do is after you put this on, you thicken this epoxy up with silica, and then that provides the extra structural strength that you need. That way it'll fill in any minor gaps, if there are any, in the joint. But the primer, what it does is it kind of gets the wood going. As far as it gives a grip to the wood itself. So if the thickened epoxy is a little bit drier than it should be, which it normally isn't, but this just makes the joint stronger. Okay, now I'll go mix up the other epoxy, or the silica, with this. Okay, now this has been thickened up. It's approximately about as thick as peanut butter, maybe a little bit less, a little bit more thin. Okay, here we go. Now, the fun part is getting this in place, get it to stay in place while you clamp it down. The good thing about epoxy is that it doesn't take a lot of clamping force to get it to stay down, to get a good bond. You don't want to clamp it too much, because that will actually squeeze the glue all out, and then you won't have as good a bond. The other thing I'm going to do here is just put a little extra here on the top. I'm going to put this other piece of plywood here and clamp that down over it. Now that's been covered with a layer of packing tape on one side to keep it from sticking to this. And there's also going to be squeeze out underneath, which we want to get off, especially before we clamp, because there'll be more coming out most likely, and I don't really want it dripping all over the boat. And as I figured, the epoxy is the epoxy is already setting up in the cup. Now, one thing I didn't think about, and there's usually something like this, is that this piece that I'm clamping down is the same length as the piece that I'm putting on there. So what I'm going to go do real quick is cut off a section of the end here and make it a little bit shorter. Okay. Okay, it's the next day and the epoxy is now set up on the extension. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off and we'll see what it looks like. This is probably going to be fun trying to get this up. Alright, and that worked. Okay, right here what we have is the aft roof extension that I put onto the cabin roof a few weeks ago. Mainly I did it to bring the roof line in line with a planned wall that goes on both sides, and to give a small space under here for a curtain rod, which is going to be used to close off the cabin when privacy is needed. But what I didn't do when I was shooting the videos is I didn't show every step. I specifically didn't show you what it looked like when it was finished. So this is it more or less finished. There's a few defects, which will be taken care of when I fiberglass the roof. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. It was quite a fun project making this little extension on the roof. Took me a couple of days. Anyway, I hope to have more videos of the project as I go along. This is still kind of a new experience to me to create and make these videos. So at first I'm sure it will take a little bit of effort. It is taken away from the building, but it's something I enjoy doing. I've always enjoyed sharing the build with other people, and hopefully, as time goes on, I'll get a little bit better at this. So anyway, until next time, take care, and we'll see you again.